So at third overall, I have the other Alberta team picking, which is Calgary.
Great choice.
So my justification for this is that based on, I'd say after the lockout, they've made the playoffs a couple times, but it's like every time, like, I think they've fooled their fan base. Every time they've said they're there, they have the pieces there, and then they either get into the playoffs and get kicked out the first round, or they don't even get to the playoffs. And then eventually they just tore it down. So I'm having Calgary pick number 3 just because there's been so much pain there. I mean, realistically speaking, out of all the Canadian teams, I'd say the ones that had the most pains in terms of playoff success would be post 05 lockout is Toronto, Edmonton, and then Calgary.
Yeah.
So I have Calgary picking number 3. They have nice pieces there. You have Monahan, you have Bennett.
Gaudreau.
You have Gaudreau, so yeah, how did I forget that? And then your defense core is basically in place.
Beautiful. One of the best.
So that's Calgary's picking number 3. I mean, I think they're there. They were there last year. They made the playoffs out of nowhere. But I still have them picking number 3 just in terms of previous disappointments from other seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the trade deadline, I think you move Hoodler.
Yeah. For sure, Hoodler's gone.
He struggled this year, and I think the reason they brought in Frolik was because they figured Hoodler's going to leave.
Yeah.
So that's why they brought him in. I think Hoodler is gone, and then you have to decide what you're going to do with Chris Russell. To me, he's a hell of a defenseman.
He's a great defenseman.
But you're going to have to re-sign guys like Monahan, Gaudreau. You're going to need to find a goalie.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think Russell doesn't stay unless he takes a home count discount. Hometown discount. Hometown discount, yeah. So, so it just depends basically if Russell wants to cash in or not. So yeah, if they don't see themselves re-signing him, I'd trade him away. So that's what I see with the Calgary Flames.
Okay, so that brings me to my number 2 overall pick, and this should show I'm not being biased at all here. But I feel like the Vancouver Canucks actually have suffered a lot. What was it, 92, 91, where they were last in the finals other than...
It was 94.
94, sorry.
I think it was 94 and 95.
They've been there many times. They're so close.
And then, yeah.
And nothing. Even before they made the finals a few years back, they got Naslin, they had Bertuzzi.
Yeah.
They had Kluche in net.
Yeah.
Crawford as a coach.
Jovanovski.
They've had the pieces. Trevor Linden. They've always been there. But it's always not good enough. And right now, it's absolutely, this needs to be blown out. Well, obviously, they won't trade the Sedins. I don't think they should anyways. I think the Sedins will retire in Vancouver.
Canucks, yeah. I see that.
I just don't see anything positive about this team right now. Ryan Miller, is Ryan Miller really a better option than Luongo was or Schneider was at this point?
Definitely not.
Even Eddie Lack. Look at how much cheaper Eddie Lack would have been. He's a young goalie. You're going in this direction. Miller's too old for the direction they're about to head in. I
mean, you look at the trade. New Jersey acquires Corey Schneider for the 9th overall pick, which turns out to be Bo Horvat. Now, it's too early to tell what Horvat's going to be. But
look at Schneider.
But I don't see Horvat being a number 1 center.
No.
And I can't justify trading a number 1 elite goalie for someone else unless you're acquiring a number 1 center. And even then, I could disagree with you because your goaltending is everything. You build your team from the net out. I mean, I think that was just poor management.
That was very poorly handled.
If you look at the Canucks right now, if they had Corey Schneider, you could argue that they could be in a playoff position.
Instantly.
They're close to the playoffs. You could argue that they'd be second in the Pacific.
Look at New Jersey.
I mean, New Jersey had no business of making the playoffs this year based off of their team on paper.
Oh, they were going to be last.
Everyone's like, New Jersey's probably last picking Matthews or up there. But look at them.
Yeah, they're right there.
They're right there. They could potentially make the playoffs. Why? They have a goaltender. Even last year, if it wasn't for Schneider, New Jersey would have had McDavid now on their roster.
That's the thing. So we can actually, frig Vancouver because they just ruined New Jersey from getting McDavid. But on a serious note, I really don't think there's anything no silver linings here, folks. Vancouver's in for a rebuild. And whether it's an Edmonton Oilers kind of rebuild, which I'm hoping, or a Calgary Flames rebuild, which is a nice 2-3 year rebuild and you're done, it remains to be seen. But they do need to draft high.
Okay. So, picking second overall for me, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, for not putting this team picking first overall.
I disagree with you.
Picking second overall for me is Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the reason I have them picking second overall is because I think they have, in terms of prospects, basically prospects, so unproven NHL talent, I think they have, on forward, they have the best unproven NHL talent in the league.
Yeah.
In terms of talent.
Look at the Marlies.
I mean, I do not disagree with you. They've struggled so much previously, ever since the lockout. They've been, ever since 67, you could say.
My parents were born.
Yeah, ever since 67, you could say it's been a struggle. But I have them picking second overall just based off of the merit that they have the second best forward group in the NHL in terms of prospects.
Can we say they have the best head coach in the league?
Well,
look at what he's doing.
Well, that's exactly why I don't have them picking number one overall. They have the best head coach in the league. You can argue they have the best general manager in the league, or the one with the most experience. Yep. And then they have you can also say they have the probably best scout, or I guess evaluator of talent in Mark Hunter.
They really have an all-star team.
They have Jacques Lemaire there, and no one's even talking about it. So I think everything's in place for this team, and just because of that, I mean, they're saying there's going to be pain, but it doesn't feel like to me there's any pain this year. I think it's just like...
Oh, everyone's happy with it.
Everything's been looking great. It's gone better than expected, and because of that, I have them picking number 2. That's my explanation. I understand why I could receive criticism for this, but that's my justification. I think things have gone better than expected for Toronto, and therefore, because of that, they pick number 2.
So here's my justification for why they should pick number 1.
Well, I still didn't say what they should do at the trade deadline.
Go.
So at the trade deadline, I honestly think you keep Kadri unless someone blows you out of the water, because I think the way Toronto values Kadri is higher than other teams do, but I think that's because they've seen Kadri all year and they can see what he does, but other teams haven't maybe played him as much. So maybe they're unable to identify the little things he does. I don't know. I just think Toronto values him higher than he is, and I think if you have a guy like Babcock and guys like Lamoriello there, then I think you can trust their justification. So I keep Kadri unless someone blows you out of the water. You keep Morgan Riley. I think you keep Gardner. If someone gives you a trade for Phaneuf and it's fair and you don't take back salary, I think you move him. I think you move Parento. You can get a lot of return for.
Right now you're getting a lot.
For what he was signed for, you can get a lot of return. I don't see Boyes getting moved. I don't think he provides any help for any other teams. Maybe Matthias can help somewhere else, but he hasn't done much for me this year either. So I think Parento gives you the best return in terms of expiring contracts, and you can move it. You can move him for a good price, and then maybe if you want him back, sign him come free agency next year.
Now, see, that's great, and obviously I have them picking first overall. Yeah. It's actually funny. At this point, I think one of their highest valued defensemen that they can move is Roman Polak.
Oh, I agree. I totally forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, he'd be a great addition to any team.
Huge
going
addition.
To the playoffs. Yeah, I agree with you.
And it's funny. They're in such a win-win position right now because, like I said, all-star front office. They're in line to lose a lot of salary cap.
Yeah. With
all of these contracts, they pretty much know what they're keeping at this point. You got your JVRs, your Morgan Riley.
Do you keep Reimer at this point, or do you move him?
I would move him.
To me, I would try re-signing him. If you don't like what you're getting, or if you don't like what he's asking, I think you move him and just take whatever teams have to offer. The thing is, with teams going into the playoffs, majority have a number 1 goalie in place.
It's going to be a backup.
Yeah, but I don't think a team would say to themselves, okay, if I'm giving up a first-round pick or whatever, I don't know what you're going to ask for Reimer.
Probably a second, third.
A second or a third, a second and a prospect. But if you're a team that's doing that, would you not rather obtain maybe a top 6, top 9 forward or top 4, top 5 defenseman rather than get a backup goalie?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's going to be the tricky part with moving a Reimer, is just what value can you get for him.
They honestly they will probably end up losing him to free agency because
someone will overpay.
Yeah, he's easily going to get $4.5 million. I don't think the Leafs will pay him $4.5 million.
I think Reimer is always underappreciated by the
Leafs. He is.
Leafs.
I love Reimer.
He's always the underdog, and he perseveres, but he's always thrown under the bus, and I think there's no justification for it.
No. Honestly, there isn't. And had he not been injured right now, well, not right now, but this year, I feel like he would have been having a great season.
I mean, I still think he's having a great year. To me, they always, before Babcock came in, and even when Babcock came in for the first bit, it just seems like, it was always Bernier.
Yep.
And then they just completely forgot that Reimer took them to the playoffs.
Instantly.
And just because they lost in Game 7, it's Reimer's fault. He let in 3 goals. Yeah, okay, you can kind of blame the goalie, fair, but I mean, he's the one that got you there, and you can also blame your team. I mean, it's a 23-man roster, not a 1 goalie roster.
I think at that point they just thought they had it in the bag.
Yeah.
Like they just we let in 1. That's okay. Oh, there it goes.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, to add to it, I think icing on the cake here would be Austin Matthews for them. I think they deserve it. I know you're not a Leaf fan, far from it, but I do think this team deserves to have the first overall pick. They will get very young in the coming year. They will be able to truly evaluate, I think. Actually, probably won't truly evaluate what they have in Bernier, because if you're going to put an even worse team in front of them come next year. But this team has heart, and I think it's due to Babcock. They're close.
Here's my justification as to why they should not pick first overall, hence get Austin Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I just said they have the best prospects, or one of the best. I mean, you look at it, they have Marner center, Nylander center. Okay, and you have Matthews, then I don't see Marner or Nylander.
Don't forget Stamkos.
So I don't see, if you get Matthews, I don't see where if you're indicating to have Nylander as a center, since that's what he's playing in the Marlies, and if you're having Marner as a center, then why? I understand you need Matthews, but we all mock Edmonton saying, they have Draisaitl, McDavid, and Hopkins. They all have top line centers. They have 3 of them, and they still struggle. I think you have a similar scenario here. Maybe just not as talented, but still a similar scenario. That's why
It's not gonna work.
That's why I don't see them. That's why I don't think they deserve picking first overall. If they do, that's good for them. They get a great player, and I think it'll help change the team around.
I just can't take you seriously with you having Winnipeg at the top of your list. Trying to justify that Toronto should not be picking first overall.
Listen, just hear me out. Here's why
he's got the best team, Canadian team drafting first overall.
No, here's why I have Winnipeg picking, and I had Winnipeg. I said 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. I think Winnipeg's the next team to win the Stanley Cup. And I tied all around to this. They got Austin Matthews. See, I predicted it. No. So the reason I have Winnipeg picking first is because ever since they've come into the league, they've basically been the Ottawa Senators of the West in terms of Canadian teams.
Except not making the playoffs.
In terms of attention from fans, I mean, within their own region they have enough fans, but just in terms of their popularity around the league. I mean, I think they have such loyal fans, and this year they're struggling. It's the
fans aren't showing up now.
Exactly, so they're not showing up. So I think they need a game changer there. And if you take into account, they could potentially lose Buffalo and Ladd. What does that team look like if they lose both? If they lose both, then I think you can easily justify them being the worst Canadian team.
Okay,
because they would not have a goalie. The Hellebuck looks good, but I mean, if you have nothing in front of him, he's just gonna end up looking bad, and he's gonna lose his confidence, and they're gonna struggle.
And then you got Pavlik 2.0.
And then you lose Bufflin. Okay, you still have decent defensemen, but I don't see that defense corps standing out somewhere, standing out ahead of other teams in the West.
Yeah.
And then if you lose Ladd, I think their top six looks depleted. I mean, it'll
That's
just
their
be
leadership gone.
it'll look similar to the Maple Leafs. You have, I think you can say Wheeler is equivalent to Van Riemsdyk, maybe a bit better. Or you can also argue that Van Riemsdyk still has a higher ceiling to reach.
I think.
And then you look at Brian Little. I mean, is Brian Little really that more productive than Tyler Bozak?
No.
Okay, so then Mark Scheifele, I think you can say Nazem Kadri as of right now is better than Mark Scheifele. So then when you compare those two, who do you and if you lose Bufflin and Ladd, then
that's a huge if.
Oh, and well, I'll tell you right now, they're losing one of them.
They will lose one of them.
And even with them losing one of them, that's a big hit to your team because I don't see any other Canadian team that will lose a player like Ladd or Bufflin to free agency, with the exception of Vancouver losing Verbata and Hamuse, and those two guys don't.
They wouldn't.
That's like Vancouver losing the Sedin twins. Like that's the equivalent impact that has to the team. So I think this all has to do with poor management. From Kevin Cheveldayoff. I mean, that's why I feel for the Winnipeg fans. Ever since they've been in the league, the management group has been too passive, with the exception of trading Evander Kane last year. And I think the only reason they even pulled the trigger on that deal was because they had to, because otherwise the dressing room would be a disaster.
Yeah.
So to me, Kevin Cheveldayoff has been too passive, and because of that, it's been leading to such disappointment in Winnipeg, and it's led them to this point where they have to pick between Bufflin or Ladd, where a year ago you could have easily had both if you played your cards right.
They still could easily have both if just
something to me
will make it not work.
To me, you can't have both because you're gonna have to overpay to keep both.
And
if you overpay to keep both, then you're gonna hurt your team in the future when you have to re-sign other guys like Ehlers, Trouba.
Well, this is where we're gonna see what the Winnipeg brass is made of.
So
we pretty much know at this point that it's not gonna happen.
To me, this is why you can easily justify to me why Leafs should pick first overall, but this is my justification for Winnipeg picking first overall.
This is a pity party for why you think Winnipeg should pick first overall. I
mean, I think like if they lose Bufflin or Ladd, the whole city's or both, the whole city is just gonna explode. I mean, ever since they've been in the league, Cheveldayoff has been sitting on his rear end doing nothing.
And I think Atlanta still has a working arena.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well move them back to Atlanta if this happens.
All right, guys. Well, those are our picks. I guess tell us in the comments what you think. Tell us what your picks are. Which of the Canadian teams should pick first overall? All right. Until next time, guys. Take care.
Take care.